Hi and welcome to Gyeongbokgung Palace, the crown jewel of Seoul, and one of the most iconic Korean historical landmarks you can visit today. Built in 1395 during the Joseon Dynasty, this magnificent royal palace served as the seat of power for over 500 years, and walking through its gates feels like stepping into another world entirely. From the legendary Gyeongbokgung Pavilion rising over its serene reflecting pond, to the hourly royal guard changing ceremony at Gyeongbokgung Gate, every corner of this place is packed with history, culture, and unforgettable photo opportunities. Inside the grounds, you will also find the National Folk Museum of Korea and the National Palace Museum, making this one of the best free things to do in Seoul for curious travelers. Whether you are planning your first Korea travel itinerary, hunting for hidden gems in Seoul, or renting a traditional hanbok to wander these 600-year-old grounds, Gyeongbokgung Palace is the one stop you absolutely cannot skip. Let's explore every corner of it together. Gyeongbokgung Palace sits right in the heart of central Seoul, just a short walk from Gyeongbokgung Station on subway line 3. The moment you step out, you are greeted by the grand open stretch of Gwanghwamun Square, one of the most visited public spaces in all of South Korea. Standing tall at the center of that square is the statue of Sejong the Great, the beloved Joseon king, who gave Korea its own writing system, Hangul, and whose legacy shapes Korean culture and identity to this very day. And rising just beyond the square is Gwanghwamun, the massive and iconic front gate of the palace itself, a symbol of Seoul that has appeared in countless Korean dramas, travel guides, and history books from around the world. Entry is just 3,000 won for adults, which is barely $2, and kids and seniors get in for free. And here is a pro tip. If you show up wearing a hanbok, you get in completely free. Although the hanbok rental costs way more than 3,000 won, it's the memory that counts, right? The first gate, Gwanghwamun, means spreading the king's virtue. It is the symbolic face of Korea. Next is Heungnymun, whose name means promoting propriety and Confucian values, separating where only government officials and royalty could enter. And Gunjeongmun, the innermost gate, means rule diligently and wisely, opens directly onto the throne hall, where 7 kings were crowned. Once you pass through all 3 gates, you arrive at the crown jewel of the entire palace, Gyeongbokgung Hall. Its name means Hall of Diligent Governance, and this is where the king held court, received foreign envoys, issued royal decrees, and where 5 Joseon kings were formally crowned. It rises on a grand double-tiered stone platform, with the mountain Bugaksan framing it perfectly in the background, a view that has stopped people in their tracks for over 600 years. Look closely at the courtyard, and you will notice the rank stones, flat stone markers embedded in the ground that showed every official exactly where to stand based on their rank during royal ceremonies. Inside, look up at the ceiling, and you will find 2 golden dragons clutching a sacred orb, a symbol of imperial power and divine protection that still feels electric today. Gyeongbokgung is designated as South Korea's national treasure, number 223, and in 2023, the entire Gyeongbokgung area was recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This is not just one of the best things to see in Seoul, it is one of the most important throne halls in all of Asian history. Behind the throne hall, you pass through Sajongmun, a gate whose name carries the meaning of one gains if one thinks deeply about the ways of the world. That leads you directly into Sajongjeon Hall, the king's working office and daily council chamber. Sajongjeon was where he met with ministers, studied state documents, oversaw civil service examinations, and made the day-to-day decisions that shaped the entire Joseon Dynasty. East of Sajongjeon sits Manchunjeon, meaning 10,000 springs, a smaller annex hall where the king would retreat to during the colder months, because Manchunjeon was equipped with ondol, Korea's traditional underfloor heating system. Moving deeper into the palace, you reach Gangneongjeon, meaning well-being and health, which was the king's personal bedchamber and living space. One of its most fascinating details is that its roof has no ridge, a deliberate design choice, because the king was symbolized as the dragon, and a dragon ridge could not rest above him while he slept. Directly behind it is Gyeongbokgung, the queen's private residence, whose name symbolizes harmony between heaven and earth. To the west sits Gyeongbokgung Pavilion, whose name means Pavilion of Joyous Meeting. This two-story wooden structure rises from a vast man-made lotus pond, supported by 48 granite stone pillars that appear to make the entire building float on the water. It is the largest elevated pavilion in Korea, designated as National Treasure number 224, and it was here that Joseon kings hosted grand royal banquets, received foreign envoys, and performed rain rituals during times of drought. The reflection of the pavilion shimmering across the pond is one of those views that no camera can ever fully do justice. It is just amazing how many people rent a hanbok. It really feels like you have slipped back into time. One of the absolute must-see experiences at Gyeongbokgung is the Royal Guard changing ceremony at Gwanghwamun Gate, and it is completely free to watch. This faithful reenactment of the Joseon Dynasty tradition of rotating the Royal Guards happens twice daily at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., every day except Tuesdays, and it runs for about 20 minutes. The moment the gong sounds, guards in vibrant traditional uniforms march forward in precise formations, accompanied by the beat of drums and the cry of traditional instruments, and they perform a ceremonial exchange of weapons and symbolic keys between the outgoing and incoming commanders. What makes this ceremony so special is how precisely it follows the original Joseon protocol, right down to the 3 separate drum beats that signal each phase of the handover. The first drum mobilizes the incoming guard unit. The second signals the commanders to step forward and verify each other's identity at the gate. And the third releases the outgoing unit. And the uniforms themselves tell a story. The guards wear striking red and blue robes, colors that were deeply symbolic in the Joseon court, where red represented power and protection, and blue represented loyalty and stability. Their black hats are adorned with pheasant feathers, and every piece of armor, helmet, and weapon is a faithful historical reproduction. Here is something most visitors do not know. This ceremony disappeared completely for nearly 400 years. When the Japanese occupied Korea in the early 20th century, the Royal Guard system was disbanded, the palace was dismantled piece by piece, and this entire tradition was erased. It was only after decades of painstaking historical research, digging through the annals of the Joseon Dynasty and ancient records, that scholars were able to reconstruct every detail of how the original ceremony looked, how the guards moved, what passwords they exchanged, and exactly what they wore. The reenactment was finally revived in 1996 and became a regular public event from 2002. So when you watch this ceremony today, you are not just watching a performance. You are watching an act of cultural resurrection, a tradition that Korea refused to let die, brought back to life from 600-year-old documents, and handed back to the world. Something most people standing in that crowd never stop to think about is how seriously these guards took their jobs in the original Joseon Dynasty. The Sumunjang, the chief gatekeeper, was not just a ceremonial figure. He commanded an entire ranked military unit with clearly defined roles. There was the Sujongjang, his deputy, who managed the palace bells and drums. There was the Jongsagwan, a lieutenant who kept the official gate book, recording every single person who entered or exited the palace. And then there were the Gapsa, an elite tier of soldiers trained in martial arts and skilled in swords, spears, and bows, whose sole purpose was to stop unauthorized entry by force if needed. Every visitor to the palace, regardless of rank, had to carry a payosin, an official identification token without which you were not getting through that gate. Beyond the gate itself, the Sumunjang was also responsible for patrolling not just the palace walls, but the gates of the entire capital city, including the famous Namdaemun to the south and Hyeonginjimun to the east. The ceremony you are watching today is the compressed version of a security operation that once protected an entire kingdom, and every movement, every drumbeat, every weapon inspection you see performed is rooted in real Joseon military law. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe and like for more from Travel Whiskers. Thanks for watching.